All right, well, it looks like we're at the top of the hour, so why don't we go ahead and get started. First and foremost, greetings everyone, and welcome to the next session in the IlliniCloud webinar series featuring IMS Global. My name is Jat Panu. I'm the Business and Operations Lead for the IlliniCloud, and joining us today I have Joaquin Alvarez, K-12 Institutional Programs Manager for IMS Global. This is intended to be an interactive session, so please type any questions you may have into the chat window and we'll address them either in stride or at the end of the session, whatever Joaquin decides he wants to do with the question as it comes up. As a reminder, all these IlliniCloud webinars, they occur every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central Time, and they are recorded and posted to the IlliniCloud YouTube channel. So if you just go out to YouTube, do a search on IlliniCloud, you should see a channel there, and you can see all the past webinars that have been recorded to date. There's also upcoming webinars that are contained within the announcement email. We are putting together a calendar that will also have these as a one-stop shop for you to find out kind of what's in the queue. These do change around a little bit, so I encourage people to go out there and take a look and just make sure that you're on the latest and most current schedule. With that, I'll turn it over to Joaquin. Please feel free to, Joaquin, to introduce yourself and share your screen and get started.
Great. Thank you, Jet. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. And, let me see if you can see it. Let me minimize this, the chat room for now. And there we go.
Yep, coming through great.
Great. All right, perfect. So, first of all, thank you for inviting me to this, or inviting IMS Global to today's webinar. We're really happy to be here, and also thank you all for taking the time to come and learn a little bit about IMS Global. My name is Joaquin Alvarez. I'm the K-12 Institutional Program Manager at IMS. I have been in the education and technology world for the last 20 years. I play different roles as a school teacher, school administrator, and then moving to the business side with software companies before joining the New York City Department of Education, where I had several roles in product development, and ultimately before joining IMS Global as Director of School Technology Strategy. I joined IMS Global because I really, I'm a firm believer in what I'm about to preach to you guys. During this session, I will encourage you to ask any questions. I have built in some time at the end for Q&A, but if there's anything that you want to ask during the slides and something that triggers your curiosity, please use the chat room to ask the questions. Hopefully, I will realize. I don't know where my chat room went, but also feel free to just I believe you can raise your hand in the system. With that said, I would also like to know who's here today. I noticed that there's a colleague of mine, Cara Jenkins. Cara, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, Joaquin. Hello, everyone. As Joaquin said, I'm Cara Jenkins. I'm the Marketing Communications Director for IMS Global. So just listening in on today's call, I started with IMS on August 1st, so any chance I have to get to know our members and what they're doing and the types of questions they're asking is really helpful to my role. So,
thank you, Cara. Anyone else?
I'm Jim Peterson. I'm from the Bloomington School District and IlliniCloud.
Thank you.
I think some of them may be on mute because they may be having other things in the background. Never know.
Yeah.
I'm Vanessa Infetti. I'm here with the IlliniCloud.
Welcome.
And I'm Scott Isaacson. I'm with the Nebraska Educational Service Unit Coordinating Council.
Okay, welcome, Scott.
Thank you.
Just trying to see who else do we have here on the call. Struggling a little bit with the system, but nobody else. Oh, there we go. I got 11 participants. There we go. Devin?
I'd say why don't we go ahead and get started, and then
Perfect.
we can have people as they come in. If you want to introduce yourself, just go ahead and put in your name, your role, and where you're from in the chat window, and that'd be a good way to kind of keep that going as we're going through the presentation.
So the first thing about today is like, what is IMS Global? I'm sure that many of you are familiar with us. IMS is a non-for-profit organization, and we try to advance technology that can scale in an affordable way and improve education participation. We believe that better technology enables better education. Our members, we are a consortium, and our members are suppliers, institutions and government organizations, and also content providers. By suppliers, I mean technology companies like Intel, Microsoft, Blackboard, Desire to Learn, and the content supplier and the content providers are like the Pearsons, the Scholastics, etc. So what do we do, right? We are the world's largest K-12 educational technology standards member consortium. These organizations rise up to 390 nowadays. And what is the standards? The standards that we are working on, that we put together as a consortium, they are interoperability standards. And this means that we try to enable the tools talking to each other and connecting in a seamless way in this ever-growing and constant adoption of new rich learning systems and educational apps. We work closely with the community to enable open architecture and plug and play. And thus far, like, we have implemented over 20. Yep. I thought we had a question. So far, we have implemented over 25 standards. And all these standards, they truly enable flexibility. They maximize, the efficiency, and they deploy like quicker than other regular solutions or more traditional solutions for integrating different technology tools. We lead with other organizations such as EduCause or the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, ISTE, COSN, Mozilla Foundation, Park. All of those are very well known in the world of education. And I just wanted to also use this opportunity to let you know that we hold a annual Learning Impact Leadership Institute and Awards program. It is due to May, and during this program and conference, we recognize the impact of innovative technology on educational access, as I mentioned before, affordability, quality, and I encourage you to visit us in our site. So this chart, I believe, is a great, speaks better about like the importance and the growth and the projection of IMS Learning Consortium throughout the last decade, and how our member organizations are like adhering to our standards and becoming members. We right now work with 10 of the 25 largest and 20 of the 100 largest school districts in the United States. We work both with higher ed and with K-12. Here you can see some of the districts that are member districts. And we have them also across the states, but also we have like foreign organizations that join IMS Global in K-12, like in Korea, or the New Zealand Ministry of Education, Australian Ministry of Education, and they are also active members. So The universities, the higher ed, they also are growing and they are implementing our standards. Here are some examples of member universities and higher ed. Then also please note that there is an international representation among these universities. And enough about IMS. I don't know if you guys have any questions about who we are, but I would like to talk more now about what do we solve? What problems do we solve? IMS spirit and beating heart is to solve problems and alleviate the pain points of the educational community as like we move into this new world where digital systems have more and more presence and the adoption of tools is more prevalent. Let me start talking about what do we solve by talking about why personalized learning and how we believe that technology can support this personalized learning, right? As Benjamin Bloom, well known for like his taxonomy, Bloom's taxonomy, he in a study like he observed like what he called the 2 sigma educational phenomenon, and he noticed like this great differences in cognitive achievement, right, for those students that had like one-on-one tutoring. And this 2 sigma, he called it 2 sigma because it's like 2 standard deviations above the average students as represented in a bell-shaped curve. He noticed that those students receiving a one-on-one tutoring perform at the 98th percentile compared to other students. That is like the 2 standard deviations, right? So personalized learning, and we obviously the cost of one-on-one tutoring in public schools or in the schools in general will not be possible, or the logistics of it. But there are many proponents and studies that believe that technology can definitely aid the need for personalized learning. And to give you examples, through adapting the pace for the students, the content for the students, the timing, through a variety of programs, and addressing the needs and interests of students. And I believe that in general, we can say that nowadays there's a demand for more choices, right? The question is like, is this sustainable, right? Can technology and replicate the effectiveness of this personalization that we're talking about, right? There's just an explosion of tools. Where did my tools go? They disappear? Okay, there we go. There is an explosion of tools. All of you are very familiar with, and this is just like a small sample. We're talking about thousands of applications that are used by our pedagogues to enrich education for remedial purposes, maybe for not just remedial purposes, but also for enrichment purposes. And this is right now if you ask me, it is not an ecosystem, right? All of these tools, they do not talk to each other. It's really hard for teachers to understand what is happening in each one of those. When the students engage with them, how do you monitor progress? How do you get what are the outcomes of the engagement? How do students navigate from one to the next one? In the past, we had it was more prevalent to have a learning management system, one platform where the students were able to follow a instructional workflow. But nowadays we move more to open learning networks where students and teachers select applications across all this, incredible offer. We have more offer than ever. But here's the problem with that. All those applications live or operate in a silo, and making it very difficult for schools in many ways. And for administration, how do you enroll the students across all this? How do you track the interactions? How do you manage like all the passwords and logins for your students? And you need, I believe that when you work in silos, you are actually taken away from instructional time. You are raising the levels of frustration, more need for troubleshooting. And when you want to connect these silos, what do you need to do? Well, you need a custom development or like a custom solution. And oftentimes they're expensive, they take time, they need maintenance, they need regular updates, and they might not even work just as well as any other or many other solutions out there in the market. All of this curriculum that lives across the applications, and it's not only curriculum, I'm going to talk about that at a later time. All of this curriculum ends up confusing like students and the teachers, because there's like little capability to curate and select choices. It's a multi-step, so it's prone to more errors and as I mentioned before, troubleshooting. If you see in the slide, I said expensive rostering. Well, traditionally when the schools adopt applications for enrichment or remedial or practice, they have to upload spreadsheets, they have to manually input, they have to create usernames when a student moves from one class to the next. That oftentimes falls through the cracks in that rostering, etc. So not only that, what outcomes come with the activity? What is the engagement of the student with the content, with the digital content, right? And what about like the assessment is separated? Teachers have to go to multiple places and they need to download multiple like results, oftentimes with a different nomenclature or measuring different things, using different frameworks or even approaches and philosophies. So that makes it really hard. I think at this point I'm getting to my first conclusion, which is we need as educators, if we want to personalize learning, it is mandatory that this cluster of digital tools turns into an ecosystem, right? We need to cut through the clutter and turn it into an ecosystem that is efficient, that is seamless, that is intuitive, and easier to deploy. How do we enable these resources, right, to be aligned to the needs of each state? How do we face all these challenges? Through this open architecture that I mentioned and through standards. You're going to hear me talk about the word standards. We don't use the standards as a way to cap innovation, as a way to cap the different products from our from the suppliers or the participating organizations. Actually, it's quite the opposite. It is a trampoline. We expect the organizations to use it to jump even farther. What I mean by that is, let me come up with an example. I believe that the bank industry solved this problem like decades ago. You don't need an ATM card for each ATM machine with a different PIN number, and at the end of the month, you do not need to download your statement for each one of the banks and do your math, right? You should be able to have one single point of entrance using one PIN number and get your statements across all the institutions and be able to bank freely without previous setting up, previous opening accounts, etc., etc. Another example about standards is like that I like using is about like lamps. You can design your own lamp. You can have very different features, but you should go to the store and feel like feel comfortable that when you go home after you buy your lamp, it will be able to plug in your outlet, right? And or that the light bulb should fit when you need a replacement. So that is what we mean by standards. They plug and play open architecture. When you have like two learning systems that do not talk to each other, you can create a an API, and either you purchase one of the products out there, or you build your own if you have that capability in your district. And once again, it's time consuming, it is more expensive, and it requires maintenance. And to give an example, and this is from my personal experience. When I was in New York and we started like interconnecting different learning systems to meet the requests of the teachers and educators, I remember ingesting in our learning management system content that we bought. We bought 89 courses from Eventa, and we will download those via FTP server, and after that we'll have to rebuild all the navigation and the courses inside of an LMS and troubleshoot all the glitches. And I believe that it took a team of 3 people, like around 4 months, to ingest 89 courses, a full catalog of high school courses, into our learning management system. Once we moved to one of the IMS global standards for integration of and learning tools interoperability, we were able to create and make available for our educators 480 or 490 courses within 2 weeks. So that is I believe, a powerful example of how integrations based on these standards are better than custom solutions. So what are these standards, right? Learning tools interoperability. It is a standard that allows you to integrate rich learning systems with a seamless connection. Some people referring to it as a deep link, because when from one system you deeply link into another system. An example is, let's say that you use Canvas or It's Learning or Blackboard, and you're linking to content from HMH or Pearson, and you go to their system, through a link, you are placing the right content with the right authorization and security, and it's a seamless experience for the end user. I have some graphic representations later so you can see that. Another word that you're going to hear from me today is common cartridge or thin common cartridge. This is a standard to pack materials, and that includes content and assessment materials, and authorized via this LTI, learning to interoperability links that I mentioned before, the access to other web-based tools. And you're going to hear about also OneRoster, because it's our standard for rostering of digital applications. And the QTI and Accessible Portable Item Protocol and Question and Test Interoperability, it is a standard that facilitates interoperability of assessment items in tests, and also the delivery of electronic accessible materials, right? Once again, if there is no interoperability between the tools, right? If they do not interoperate, we do not believe that there is personalized learning, right? Here's an example. Let's say that a school district X, it is using NBC Learn videos, some content from Pearson and McGraw-Hill, and they can either operate with different passwords for their students, not getting any information back from the systems, and having the silos that I described earlier, or through learning tools interoperability standard, LTI, they can launch, they can search, they can authorize, and they can obtain the results of that interaction of the students with all these learning systems from one single learning platform or portal, right? Not only that, all the school district data, the system of record, student information system, can automatically roster the students to a particular grade, class, content, and term, etc., using the OneRoster application. So what we have here is an ecosystem and just not a silo bunch of applications that come together. One of the reasons why we end up with like all this cluster of applications is because the market is often driven by the vendors. And it's a sign, in my opinion, of a market that is not mature yet, because they come to the schools and they convince the educators what is it that they need, right? And the educators oftentimes end up like choosing these applications that work in proprietary systems, and they do not really address the needs that they want, or if they do, which like that also happens, you know, fairness, but then like they cannot like easily make the results compatible with other applications, download them and integrate them in their systems. So when you when your school district decides to adopt learning tools, right? They can either comply with IMS standards or not. But you can either adopt a platform and think that it's an ecosystem on its own, and then try to, in a more expensive and laborious way, connect it with other systems, or you can thoughtfully assemble your own ecosystem, right? And that way you can just like own the process and improve the results and minimize false starts. There are plenty of choices. Actually, we have like more than 70 platforms that are already that accept IMS compliant applications and content, and definitely all of the big companies, as you can see here, are part of this conformance directory that we have. And what is this conformance directory? Well, we have a listing of products that meet our standards, okay? And they have been tested to meet our standards. And they all work in this plug and play open architecture, right? Another good simile that I like using is like when, like the Legos, how do you build Legos, and how do we construct like out of different pieces that integrate seamlessly with each other. And we're over 700 products right now. I don't know if we have, I don't know if we have any questions. I'm not sure how to look if we have any questions, but
no questions as of yet.
No questions so far. Okay, great. Thank you, Dad. So here is like the demand out there in the market, right? This talks about our solutions and our adoption, right? This growth, this chart displays the growth of the products that are IMS Global certified for our seamless ecosystem plug-and-play architecture. And as you can see, in the last few years, there's like an incredible adoption of it. Once again, we do not create the products. We're a consortium. The suppliers come together, they decide what the standard is, and they go back and they build their products themselves in a way that they're interoperable. In the market and as part of the market laws, competition is definitely a driver, but also, and this happens in many fields, the collaboration is needed sometimes to even improve not just innovation, but market opportunities. And this is a great example of how like the industry comes together to collaborate on a set of standards. So what does it mean like for a school district? Let's move into the application part of it, right? Enough of me just like preaching like about IMS. How are districts implementing IMS standards? Well, so here's the thing. When a district starts like realizing that like their teachers are using one too many tools, or not one too many, but like a lot of tools, I don't know if it's one too many, and then it comes back to them as costly tools, and they feel like they need to reduce like the implementation time. They want to reduce the cost. They want to simplify the workflows for their schools, right? Because when you simplify the workflow, and by the workflow I'm talking about like when you roster, when you do rostering of students, when you do integration of learning systems, what you're doing when you simplify that workflow, you bind back instructional time. Right? And not only that, you have an easy and safe access to those tools, and you get outcomes from those tools. And not only that, I keep saying the same thing, but you reduce the learning curve of having to work with systems that are closed and siloed and for your teachers. This example of Newton County, Georgia, they use Safari Montage as the learning object repository. The learning management system, it is Schoology. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. They use Skyward. I believe this is a student information system, and the system of record for the grades is Performance Matters, or the assessment system. So how do you solve the connectivity between Safari Montage, the learning object repository, and their learning management system? How do they solve the connection, the interoperability of their student information system into the learning management system? Because this is going to ultimately influence the way the face-to-face teacher does the activities using the learning object repository, or how they also even take attendance or have some digital content delivered to the students. Well, so this same chart, if I move forward, it shows you where our strategy, IMS Global Standards, sits within that architecture, right? Their learning object repository, it is talking to their assessment system using QTI and using Caliper. Oh, I just noticed that I didn't mention Caliper. Caliper is another one of our standards that captures learning activity, right? That you might need for accountability purposes, you might need it to improve your processes, or just to inform personalized learning, once again. And Caliper consistently captures this data in a standardized common language between the tools. The One Roster standard was used by both Schoology, their LMS, and Safari Montage, the learning object repository, to talk to each other. Also, One Roster, it is used to seamlessly integrate their student information system and bring back some of the grades. Another example, Houston Independent School District. They have an ecosystem. This is just a small sample. I know they have over 200 applications, rich learning systems, I believe they mentioned at one point. And how do they go about turning this into a seamlessly integrated learning ecosystem to enable personalized learning? Well, so they connect with connect with vendors such as Pearson or Scholastic, McGraw-Hill that you saw there, through common cartridges. It's a way for them to import this package web-based content and questions and tests. And also one of the things that they guarantee is that their content is dynamic, because it's really living in the servers of Pearson or McGraw-Hill or Scholastic. It's not static content that never gets updated anymore because it lives in their learning system, right? They also use learning tools interoperability for integration with content as a single sign-on experience for students. And remember, another thing that I should have emphasized earlier is that when you use LTI with an LMS or with a platform, you're providing students a single sign-on experience. So with one username and password, they have access to all this ecosystem that is in front of them. Some of our districts or member districts, I should say, are aggressively, quote unquote, right, moving forward to adopt IMS standards. Why is that? Because once again, they want to reduce time and costs, right? They want to simplify like the workflows and buy back instructional time for the teachers. They want to avoid a false start. They do not want to have like a custom solution to integrate systems. And they want.
Hey, Joaquin, we're getting a little distortion from your mic.
Oh, you are? Okay. That is I have like. Okay. Is it any better?
No, it's about the same. Sounds like butterfly wings on top of your mic. That's what it sounds like.
All I have fiber. It shouldn't be like that. Should I call back for my phone? Is it getting better or worse?
Yeah, it's not improving. So maybe.
Let me try one thing. So sorry. Okay. Let me try. Okay, can you hear me better?
That's better. Yes.
Okay, so this is just like the regular computer microphone and speakers. Perfect.
Yeah, sounds fine.
That's fine. Awesome. I lost my train of thought. Yes, Lee County schools. They have a very quote unquote aggressive approach to adopting the standards because they learn through experience that it will reduce time, it will reduce costs, that it will make it easier for educators and ultimately improve the user experience of their students, right?
I'm sorry, Joaquin. Can you go into presentation mode? Because right now we're seeing.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
There we go. Perfect.
Yep.
So what are these challenges that we solve, right? And I have this slide that talk about it, but I like this slide because I think it expresses like the previous concepts in a better way, right? And I will read this to you. We can import, or the products that are IMS compliant can import and export learning materials in a compatible way. We can integrate systems seamlessly with other rich learning applications and tools, all right? The products that are IMS compliant, they can share roster and student information across different systems. And they can exchange test content and results between tools and platforms. That is really what turns a large number of digital tools into an ecosystem. Some of them are building a lot of them actually, most of them are building the requirement within the RFS language. So vendors understand that it's imperative to adopt our standards as a way to improve their ecosystems. There are many ways to participate. I'm going to move into the last part of the presentation before we go into the Q&A. If your districts want to join, as contributed members, they will join the institutional executive board and the technical advisory board. And we have different levels of membership, contributing members and affiliate members, and they have obviously, different access to and responsibilities and privileges. The important thing about joining IMS, it is that the participating districts get to sit at the table. They get to vote, they get to decide, they get to participate. And all of these standards are not really developed by us meaning like the staff of IMS Global. They're developed by the participating members. And that is what I mean by sitting at the table of innovation, right? The executive board for K-12 not only talks about like standards for interoperability, but enables effective collaboration among members. The image that I showed before about the silos and applications, that is happening with K-12 districts. And K-12 districts nowadays, they do not need to work in a silo, they do not need to reinvent the wheel. They can source knowledge out, they can share resources, and they can actually set an example for the larger community. This executive board meets 4 times a year. They inform us strategically about like the next steps. And we try to be an action-oriented organization with a pragmatic philosophy. We believe that that change is possible, is gradual, and is incremental, but we want our meetings to translate into clear action items to keep advancing the work and the adoption of instructional technology for that to enable better learning, right? How do we do this? One of the things that we do in K-12 and also in higher ed, it is through communities of practice. We create a playbook of resources. We source knowledge out. We have like right now 4 different communities of practice in K-12, where in each one of the community we have like a few school districts from all over the country. They come together and their work is like twofold. On the one hand side, they support each other implementing, troubleshooting, best practices, and creating the playbook of resources. On the other hand, as the end users, they understand the problems of implementing that technology. And by understanding those and identifying the challenges, they also inform the requirements that might be part of the specification for a Nexus standard. So that is how you contribute to, if you are part of like our membership, you contribute to develop the standards that the consortium creates. I mentioned the playbook, and I want to highlight this. That is why I bring up this Nexus slide. These are the resources that are accessible to our members. We help them get started. We have catalog for suppliers, certifications. We have how-to guides. We have descriptions on processes and success stories. We create case studies about open standards, how to support, next generation assessment, how to transform like digital curriculum. We have many opportunities for collaboration and also for, procurement guides, RFS, RFPs. So I just want to set out that, this EdTech white paper, they recommended that school districts thinking about moving into standard-based technology adoption and integration, consider IMS Global certified products, as well as like the ISTE seal of alignment. As you know, the IMS Global talks about the interoperability between tools. ISTE is more focused on the, I believe, in the implementation in the classroom and among educators. I want to reiterate that and summarize that our standards promote plug-and-play integration and open architecture design, and that and I want to invite anyone to get in touch with us if you want to just further explore how our organization works, how our community of practice come together to solve problems, how to be part of that table where we see to drive, I believe, innovation in the K-12 arena. If you have any questions, please, here's my information. I think I'm just exactly, yes, like I wanted to leave like the last 20 minutes for Q&A. I went over 4 minutes, but I want to open it for questions right now. And
all right, so thank you for that, Joaquin. I think that was very, very informative and very, very valuable. Let's open the floor for questions. You can put them in the chat, or I haven't mic'd or muted everybody's mic, so you can unmute and ask your question directly if you wish. Let me start it off. So if someone was to try to get started with IMS Global and they've got, a student information system, an LMS, some collection of applications, what's the typical implementation time and cost and the resources that they would need to successfully implement a pilot of IMS?
Well, that's a great question, and it's definitely complex. It involves many of the sorry, I was trying to get to the last, there. So that is a really good question. Most of the districts are consumers of technology, in my opinion. Very few districts have the capability to have like an IT shop and develop and have devoted resources. I believe that IMS Global is particularly useful for both large and small districts for various reasons. To answer your question, you still need to decide what your strategy is in terms of like your learning management system versus a launch platform that links the students to a learning object repository to different apps. Where IMS is going to help you is integrating all those platforms in a quicker way. You can integrate within days instead of like putting up an API, which can take you like weeks or if not months. You can integrate, let's say it's learning with Pearson courses. Within days, you can integrate your student information system to roster your apps. And the training, actually, a lot of our standards, for example, learning tools interoperability, LTI, I had resources work on it that were not computer programmers, they were not strictly like developers. They were just tech-savvy people. So it is accessible even for like non-developers. So I cannot give you a precise answer because it would depend on the learning system that you decide. It will depend on like the content that you decide to integrate and the size of your school district. But I would say that like when you are trying to have your systems talk together for student enrollment, getting information back, such as like the learning outcomes. And outcomes is a term that needs further clarification, includes test results, etc. You're going to reduce your time like significantly. And by significantly, my estimate is like 80% or more, because once again, having a teacher that needs to go to 3 systems, download 3 spreadsheets, that needs to create passwords for students for each different system. It's not only sustainable, it frustrates the teacher, but it's very time consuming. So unfortunately, and I wish we had metrics on that, but the permutations and variations of the tools make it very hard for us to come out with a chart comparing like start up your little system without IMS standards versus IMS standards. It is a very complex question to answer.
No, absolutely. And I think so there was maybe to help kind of narrow down the scope a bit. Bernie has posted a question. So more specifically, let's say the use case is one roster for apps, and or another example is using LTI with the SIS, kind of a sense of the same kind of question, but narrowing it down to that kind of use case. And then there's a follow-up question after that.
Yeah, perfect. So using LTI, once again, obviously the first time is going to be harder because you need to know how to like integrate the link. But after you know how to do it, I've seen guys doing like an LTI link within like, and tested within hours. So there you go. You have like, after going over the learning curve, you have like a resource that works at the central offices or in your district, integrating 2 systems within hours. That is like fantastic. The one roster, it can take you definitely more time to put it together, but the benefit is the gift that keeps giving, right? Because once you do it, it's at one place and it's automated. You don't have to worry about like, if a student moves from one class to the other class, you need to worry about like teachers continuous and everyday uploads of spreadsheets to roster students in the apps. And that is even harder to gauge because if you do not use it, you are condemned, quote unquote, to update your rostering almost on a daily basis or like on definitely weekly basis, right?
No, absolutely. And I'm sure that some of the case studies that you have on your website have some valuable information about a specific type of implementation that we could probably mine for that.
I encourage everyone to visit those, yes.
Yes. All right, great. More questions?
Hi, this is Tony from University of Chicago Charter. My question is, so I'm trying to wrap my head around exactly what this is, and I'm going to kind of characterize it, and I'd like some clarification on this characterization, see if I'm getting this. Basically, between systems, be it LMS and SIS or whatever, or assessment tool, what this service is, or what this kind of standards effort is a way for the manual transfer of data to be taken over by an automated process, so that whereas before we'd extract data out of our SIS and upload it to an assessment tool, that would be automated.
Yep.
As well as downloading that data from that assessment tool and populating it into a data reporting, a data warehouse where we do data reporting. Is that generally what we're talking about here? Is the automation of data transfer between disparate systems?
Well, that is one of the benefits, yes. It's just the single sign-on, the students accessing to like content modularly, being able to do searches across products. But ultimately, what you say is one of the things, especially, I believe you mentioned you're with university in higher ed, the Caliper standard works really well, capturing all the interactions of students with content. And people do usually bring that from all the different tools into a data warehouse, and then they build their own, programs with their own algorithms to weigh in that data in different ways. That is a different approach. But the answer to your question is yes. So how does it work? Because I understand that it can be like a concept that is kind of hard to grasp at first. So you will be working with your, let's say, Wiley, right? Some content for the university, and chances are it's already IMS compliant. So it's going to be ready for that. You want to work with a LMS, let's say Blackboard or Canvas, and it's already IMS compliant. So the work is already it's pre-done, right? It's almost like just hit and eat.
Yeah, just to clarify, we have a charter school that University of Chicago is affiliated with. So we're K-12, and I'm not sure that all the K-12 apps are, compliant as higher ed would be. There's much more finance available for higher ed than for the charter.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I cannot tell you what applications like you use that are like, you can go to the Proprietary Directory. I showed a graph before that shows like the conformance and how our numbers are going, like higher and higher by the years, especially in the last few years with this explosion of apps. One of the things that happens when people join IMS is that they realize they get a taste of the secret sauce. So then they start demanding from their suppliers to adopt this standard to reduce costs and to make it easier. So once again, I want to reiterate, yes, it is already being leveraged by many school districts. I can mention Houston, Winnet County, Fulton County, Lee County, Pickens County, etc. Many districts across the country to harmonize like the outcomes, because it's not just like, as I mentioned before, connecting, having access, and entering the other system, but it also brings information back about what happened into that system, right? And this is a work in progress. Right now in the communities of practice, we have one that is called meta tagging and metadata, and we're looking into ways to see, what can be tagged and be retrieved from the interaction between the systems and continue to advance the work. So the power of adopting, you can either adopt any products, moving on, any apps that are not compliant with IMS or that are compliant with IMS. And I think I already went over like the advantages of like going with IMS compliant applications and tools. Obviously, you're not going to go 100%. Probably there will always be a teacher that wants to use an app that is a proprietary system, right? And it doesn't talk to anything, and the data is completely siloed. But to be quite honest, it looks like more and more and more districts and vendors are moving into the open architecture, plug and play. and for obvious reasons, instructional, cost effectiveness, etc. And you do not have to do anything differently. You just have to buy products that have adopted that standard, right? That plug for the lamp that can plug into any outlet in any wall, right?
Great. Hey, Joaquin, you mentioned some of the large districts that you're working with. Are you working at the state level anywhere at this time?
Yes, we're working at the state level. We have like 4 pilots with, we have states that are members, like Wisconsin, right? We're working at this. I have a presentation for Georgia in a couple of weeks. We have some pilots in South Carolina, in Texas, and these pilots, not only states are interested in our standards, as a way to enable better technology, to enable better learning, right? But also, we are piloting I have not mentioned this, one of the communities of practice is around curriculum framework. Currently, as you know, the standards, the learning standards, Common Core at the state level, they have all these derivatives that can go down to the district, sometimes to the school. They are PDFs. They're human readable, but they're not machine readable. So what we're piloting is machine readable standards that can be adopted by digital tools, and working with learning systems and content providers. So we crosswalk content we align it to learning standards. And these learning standards, we want to unlock, right, those PDFs. And that's what we're working on, a specification that will have digital representations and the relationships. So we can, and it's a flexible model, right? So, and we're collaborating with the Council of Chief State School Offices. We're collaborating with State Education Technology Directors Association, and we're trying to get a proof of concept in the states that I mentioned before. So we can crosswalk the learning standards to content. So to give you an example of what that means, you can go and do a search in a learning repository such as Safari Montage based on what content is aligned to what standard. And ultimately, if that works, which is working, the pilot as a proof of concept, ultimately the goal is to even link it to assessment results, right? So you basically closing the circle. So summarizing and to answer to your question, yes, we also collaborate with states. There are states that are members of IMS, and we also collaborate with particular projects or working groups and task forces to advance the work of learning systems. And I give you an example with this curriculum framework pilots that we have in 4 states.
Great, thank you very much. We've got a couple of minutes left. Any other questions or just general comments? All right, we're coming upon the top of the hour. On behalf of everybody on this call and myself, I'd like to say thank you, Joaquin, for taking us through this material. It's been very valuable, and I found it very enlightening. Thank you so much for taking the time to walk us through IMS and some of the unique solutions you bring to the market.
Thank you all. It was my pleasure, and look forward to hearing from you again.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.